tighten your lines as we get ready to sail the seven seas on the Political Pirate Podcast. Join Captain Ted Yoho and the salty dog John Martin as they search far and wide for the greatest treasure of all, the truth. From local Florida news to nationwide stories and the globe beyond, we've got it all mapped out. Now here's your hosts, the salty dog John Martin and Captain Ted Yoho.
Well, good Friday morning to everybody out there, and welcome to the 3 Ps, the Political Pirate Podcast, with your host, the old salty dog, who's kind of soggy dog right now, John Martin, and the captain of our pirate ship down in the beautiful Florida Keys, none other than Captain Ted Yoho. Good morning, Ted.
Morning, John. How are you doing? And we're soggy down here, too. So we're spanning the state, you up in North Florida, and I'm down here in the Florida Keys. And we've just had a tremendous storm today, and it's kind of refreshing. Mother Nature rejuvenating.
We're getting our version of Florida snow, you know, where it's just that heavy mist that comes in. That's basically most of the snow we ever get here. But Ted, we got to jump right into the Middle East peace proposal, man. I know you've been following. I don't know if you've seen this morning. There was a scene in Gaza this morning. It looked like 1 million people. It was probably 100,000, literally walking in about a 3-file line, maybe 6, down the Mediterranean coast back towards one of the population centers. I don't know if it's Gaza City or whatever. It was an amazing sight. And what that tells me, because we're going to talk more in detail in a moment, but what that tells me is the people whose lives to a certain extent are on the line down there believe this thing is going to stick this time.
It really does. I mean, this is a monumental agreement. Just the mere fact that you have those two sides talking, and we'll see if they follow through and release all the remaining 2025 hostages, and that Israel holds the line like they said they would. If they do, John, this is a change in history that's been waiting for over 3,000 years to get some peace in that area. And if so, Trump, I mean, he really does deserve the Nobel Peace Prize, although it didn't happen this year. It's just one of those things that nobody thought he could do it. And they said he was an idiot for the things he was proposing, but yet it's thinking outside of the box that really got people to say, why not? Why not, rebuild this area and make it a Mediterranean resort area and go from there and get away from the nonsense that they were doing. So let's see where this leads to. Good first start.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the Nobel Prize. In case people haven't been tuned in, it was announced at like 5 o'clock this morning. But the Nobel Prize winner, to really no one's surprise, it was not Donald Trump. It went to Maria Corina Machado, I believe is how her name is pronounced. She is, in fact, basically the president in exile of Venezuela. She's the one that they say won the election if it wasn't truly rigged, and that Maduro is now still president of Venezuela, and she is in hiding somewhere, and she won it. I'm not saying she doesn't deserve it. If anybody other than Trump, maybe she does. It will probably benefit her more than it would have benefited Donald Trump, in all honesty, as far as her maybe bringing actual human rights and freedom back to Venezuela. I tell you what, Ted, I'm just shocked that Obama didn't win it again, because he has negotiated peace between him and Michelle, from what I can see on her podcast that I occasionally see clips of. And that's no small feat. That is a bigger feat than what they actually gave him the award for.
That really is. Good point there, John. But we were just talking about that. Here, Obama gets the Nobel Peace Prize. And it's like everybody's scratching their head like, what did he do? Just show up today and they gave him the prize.
Yeah, even he was amazed by it, if you remember.
He played it well, though. But this lady in exile, the de facto president of Venezuela, she stood up very strong against Maduro and that machine. And it's a rogue regime down there. It's a corrupt regime. They're a narco-terrorist state. And it's fitting to go to somebody like her And before that, there was Juan Guaido, who was the de facto president of Venezuela back probably about 6 years ago. He won the general election. Of course, it was rigged, and we know about rigged elections. And Maduro won, I think, with an 85, 95% percentile. You know, if you want to believe that, I will sell you some land up in beachfront property in Arizona. But for these people to stand up in that kind of environment against all odds is something that speaks loudly, and it really rallies the people around them and the world community. And we'll just see where this goes. And keep in mind, there's a $50 million bounty on Maduro's head. His time is limited as being the so-called leader of Venezuela, a guy that's truly destroyed one of the wealthiest countries in South America. And let's hope his time is limited. And, you know, in past, Cuba propped him up along with Russia and Iran and China. Cuba's going through their own crisis, and hopefully that regime will change and they'll get some freedom-loving Cubans to take over there. That'll help Venezuela flip over to sanity, I'll say. And so, let's see where this goes.
Well, I think he's still being guarded by what they call the Black Wasp, I think, which is a Cuban, very highly skilled, apparently, security force, and pretty ruthless.
Well, you know, Cuba rents those people out all over the world for security for autocratic leaders. And the reason Maduro uses them in Venezuela, he doesn't trust his own people. But he knows Cuba, he can trust them, you know, because he pays them well enough, I guess. I don't know. It's crazy. It's just crazy how these people operate, these thugs.
Well, you know, I was thinking about the lady that won the Nobel Prize. She's probably in some ways more in danger than Donald Trump is, because Donald Trump obviously has had assassination attempts, but he does have the might of the Secret Service and all the other security apparatuses. I would imagine there is an underlying bounty on her head as well, and I can't imagine that she's protected anywhere near the level of Donald Trump. So her life is on the line, no question.
Well, John, you look at Mexico, and I bring Mexico into this because they're a narco state, just like Venezuela. And you look at how many politicians, judges, and police officers that were standing up for the rule of law and trying to do the right thing. They have been slaughtered over and over again. And I think during the last year, there was over 20 candidates that were murdered in Mexico. And so take that to Venezuela. They have the same apparatus in Venezuela. So you're right, this lady is in jeopardy. And I'll guarantee you she doesn't have near the type of security that a U.S. Politician would have, somebody like a Trump. And even then, you've seen how many assassination attempts that we know about on his life. We know of two, but the apparatus was working against him. And we just need to keep cheering Trump on, because he is changing the dynamics, not just in Washington, D.C. with the deep state and everything he's doing to shake it up there, but he's really changing the dynamics around the world. And I know you've got some sound bites coming up with the NATO leaders in Finland and countries like that, that he's really had an influence. And it's not Donald Trump's words, it's the words of the other people from these countries.
Well, you mentioned about police officers in Mexico. I think it was yesterday or day before. There were a couple of them that were ambushed down in Chihuahua by some citizens group or whatever, but I'm sure they were probably cartel. But the scary thing, Ted, is we're actually seeing that in our own country now. We have officers, ICE and Border Patrol agents that are being set up and attacked and ambushed and everything else right here in the good old USA. So,
no, John, not in Portland. It's not true. They said, the mayor and the governor out there said it's not true.
It's not happening.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But you don't see them on the street, do you?
Well, that always, whenever I hear about that, I think about the guy you most likely would love to sit by when you were in Congress, Jerry Nadler, that he said Antifa is a myth. And at the same time he said that, they're literally burning down the courthouse there.
I have talked to members of Congress from Oregon, and they said, oh, we don't have any problem out there. And you're seeing it on the news. They said, oh, that's just media hype. And I'm like, I don't believe so. So
Yeah, well,
denial.
and what gets me is how they'll talk about how, oh, it's just one neighborhood or something like, which we know is not true. But even if it was just one neighborhood that is totally under siege, doesn't every neighborhood deserve to be protected?
Well,
I mean,
let me put it this way. If you have a cancer and they take 99% of it out, is that a good thing?
probably not.
Probably not, because it's going to fester. And so, yeah,
Absolutely.
you need to get the rule of law and get rid of the bad players. And you can have a voice of dissent, but you not to the extent that these people do. And when you get organizations like Antifa, and I'm very glad that Trump and the cabinet have agreed to call them a domestic terrorist organization so that they can go after it. And they've not been organized as far as a hierarchy, and that was by purpose so that they could say, we're not an organized organization. But yet the Justice Department went after Tea Party groups when they started in 2010, and they denied them tax-free exemption. They did everything they could to block them. But yet on the other side with Antifa and the groups like that, BLM, they just give them a pass. The tide is changing, and we're in the golden age of America.
Well, I don't want to jump around too much, but I can't help since you talked about
that's my job. That's what I do because I got ADD.
Yeah, well, you've triggered in me as well. We're talking about Middle East peace, but before we move any further, I have to mention Letitia James got indicted yesterday, and I don't have a video to play, but I saw a video this morning where she literally comes out and says, "Oh, these are baseless. I'm totally innocent," which is cool if she wants to say that. I'm not saying
all criminals say that.
But this is what gets me. She says this is just another example of Donald Trump weaponizing the Justice Department. And this is from a woman who literally campaigned saying, if you elect me, I'm going to get Donald Trump. I mean, my God, man, do they not see the hypocrisy of this?
No, they don't. They're blind to that. They've got blinders on, and it's hate Trump. We hate Trump. Anything we can do to get Trump. And she had the most egregious, most obnoxious fine administered to Trump, $453 million. And remember how she bragged about going by the Trump Hotel, seeing that name change, that she was going to own that. And, fair play. It all comes around eventually and bites you in the rear end when you play dirty.
Well, when you mention that, I can't help but say, she got Trump indicted basically for committing fraud on a mortgage note or bank loan that the banks didn't complain about. And she said that the biggest thing was he undervalued or overvalued Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago, I think, is like 10 acres or something like that. And right on the beach in West Palm Beach.
On the coastal end of the beach.
Yeah, he valued it at $18 million. And she said,
Billion.
18 million, right?
Billion with a B.
No, I think that might be incorrect. But anyway, I was going to say down there where you are, you couldn't get 10 acres for how much would 10 acres be where you're living right now?
It would be a lot.
A lot.
I'm on a postage size stamp lot here, and it hopefully it's a little over $1 million. But the whole thing is, anybody that's been in business, I had a rancher tell me when they're selling cattle, he goes, you price them high if they're your cattle. If you're buying them, you price them real low, and you want to maximize what you can. If you price them low to sell them, you're not going to get any more. So anybody that's been in business, anything I own, I'm going to double the value of it, because I'm looking for a buyer. And Trump is the same way. And she obviously doesn't understand how the business world works.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to follow that and see, because, since we're talking about it, the Comey first court appearance was this past week too. And the media, what gets me about the media, it's one thing to defend Comey or whatever, or, criticize Donald Trump. But the thing that gets me when they're talking, I'm talking about the left media, which is most of it, They never say the guy is innocent, or they never deny the charges. They just simply say, I don't think they got a good enough case against him, or that this is, weaponization of the Justice Department. They never actually come out and say that, obviously there's no evidence here or anything like that. And they always criticize, and they're doing it in this same case with Letitia James already, that the attorney bringing the case, which is she's new to the department, she's Donald Trump's newest appointment, that she has no experience in this. And they make it sound like that Donald Trump indicted the guy or indicted Letitia James. It was a jury of citizens that said that there was enough evidence here to indict. That's what they say. And so whether or not that ends up being a good case against them is up to the next jury, I suppose. But it wasn't Donald Trump or this attorney that indicted him. It was a grand jury of citizens that did it.
Well, look at the other side of that, too. Look at what Comey did with Hillary Clinton. Here, he recommends that there wasn't enough evidence to indict her. He had no role in doing that. So he was playing the opposite. Instead of saying, put her up for indictment, he took that away from that jury that should have been selected that would have indicted Hillary Clinton, and we would be done with her. But he took that away. And, had he done what he was supposed to, I don't think Benghazi would have happened, because she was a big architect of that. And what happened in Syria, when they took out the no-fly zones, that was her and John Kerry and Barack Obama, and Joe Biden was in the room. And they took out the no-fly zones that led to the fall of Gaddafi, which I'm not saying was a bad thing, but it's kind of like what happened when we got rid of Saddam Hussein in Iraq. There was no strong arm to keep the people in check, and what came out of Libya was ISIS. And their reasoning was, well, let's just blow it up and see what comes out of that. That was the foreign policy of Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton. If Comey would have kept his mouth shut and just referred it to the Justice Department, let them decide, and she got in trouble like she should have been, that may never have happened.
And what gets me too about the way the media covers the Comey issue is they always bring up, they say, well, really Trump shouldn't be after Comey because he owes his election to Comey writing that letter about Hillary Clinton and the email thing and all that and everything else. But they never mention the fact, and this is no question of fact, that Comey brought forward the FISA court stuff that perpetuated the PP dossier from Russia that Hillary Clinton's campaign, we know for a fact, paid $10 million for. And they say that Comey didn't know that, And Comey himself has come out and said, if I'd have known what I know now, I wouldn't have went before the FISA. But here's the thing I say that either he is lying about that, which I personally believe he is, or he's totally incompetent, because how can you be the head of the FBI and not see that all of that stuff was complete bullshit? I'm just going to say it, Ted. It's just, how he's either incompetent, lying, most likely both.
Well, he's a liar. It's just like him coming across the so-called miraculous seashells on the beach that said 8645. How did that happen? And what does that mean? Like, he acts like he doesn't know what that means. And then he was also the one that was working to suppress the Hunter Biden laptop that would have given Trump the election. The surveys have been in. The American people said, had they known that the Trump or the Biden laptop was real and all that stuff that was on that, they wouldn't have voted for Joe Biden. So there again, thanks to James Comey and the deep state, they really worked to keep Donald Trump out of that. And that's where the rule of law is. And they have to go through these agencies and clean them out, especially like the FBI, CIA, all the three-letter agencies, because that really is where the deep state is. But the deep state is also in these bureaucracies in Washington, D.C. Congress has a very strong role that they can do. And we've talked about this before, the Chevron deference case that was put in place in 1984 from the Supreme Court, misguided Supreme Court, that gave these agencies pretty much the rule of law and executive privileges. That got overturned last year by the Supreme Court. If Congress will direct legislation and limit what an agency may do and what they shall not do, it'll change the face of this country for a very long time and prevent that deep state from forming into bureaucracies. The agencies, that's going to be up to the president and the people he puts in charge.
Well, Ted, I got an idea for you. If Comey, in fact, is found guilty, people are saying, how long can he serve? I think he should be sentenced to 8,647 days. 8647. I think he should be, if there's a poetic justice, he'll be sentenced to 8,647 days.
You know what? If you were to float that by Trump, he would make
Mr.
that.
Trump, go for it. Well, Ted, we're talking about the peace deal in Gaza, and we're going to take a quick break, and then I promise everybody we'll take a little deeper dive in that. So if you'd like to be one of our sponsors, look at the line that says contact Freddie. Call that number. We certainly could use your support. We thank you for supporting our sponsors and for watching our show. Ted, we'll go to break on your word.
All right. Well, we do. We depend on you. We want to go to 3 to 5 days a week, and we need the sponsors to do that. So if you like our show, become a sponsor, pass the word around, let people know that we're on the air. John, back to you.
We'll be right back.
Although the owner of Lewis Oil Company maintains she is 29, Lewis Oil turns 60 years old in June. Chevron would like to recognize the North Florida second-generation family-owned business, celebrating its growth and staying power. Lewis Oil Company maintains significant on-hand supplies, strategically located fuel depots, a delivery fleet, on-site service, fuel card locks, and convenience stores. Lewis Oil Company understands its responsibility in the local economy by providing service and delivery on demand and in crisis. As a first responder for 18 Florida counties and the Southeast from Texas to Virginia, we are proud of this rare accomplishment. Lewis Oil delivers.
This is Ward Scott, and I want to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. The Ward Scott Files premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care.
Meldon Law, the only official injury partner of the Florida Gators.
The Ward Scott Files Gold sponsors are Lewis Oil Company,
Shoot GTR,
On the Spot Dry Cleaners, R&R Construction, and Style Cuts. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, www.wardscottfiles.com, and click on the Advertise Here banner on the right side of the page, or call my friend Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the Ward Scott Files. And remember, if you like the show, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. May God have mercy on your soul.
Ward, that very much surprises me that you've never been tased.
You can't handle the truth.
All bees poop.
A warthog. He's going to come up the steps. Here he comes. Oh my goodness, and he's huge. Hello, boy. Wonder if we can pet him. Hi, boy.
Can we touch him? No, don't.
Help me! Help! Help!
And we're back, Ted. Well, when we went to break, we were talking a little bit about this peace deal in Gaza. And, I kind of asked, is this real and all that? And we talked about that. I want to show a video. This was like, I think 2 days ago, actually now, of people, because we've shown plenty of videos of people, yelling against Israel, against to America. But these are young people, and they're yelling Akbar, and all that kind of stuff. But that's not really the point. You can't expect people not to be in their religion. but they're celebrating the fact that there's going to be peace in Gaza. These are young people. It's very refreshing to see this. Let's play it.
Yep.
Well, there you have it. They're cheering. And Ted, you know, my thought on this, because people talk about, is this lasting? Do they really want peace and all that? And I'm not talking about Hamas. I'm talking about the people there, and I'm not letting them off the hook, so to speak. But I really believe, maybe it's naive of me. I'd love to get your opinion on this, Ted. I really believe the vast majority of people in the world, people, not talking about government leaders, military, I'm talking about people, really, if they have a chance, just want to live life. Just want to have their family and be protected. I know people get radicalized and all that, but I really still got to believe that majority of the world would like to live peacefully if they had a real choice.
Oh, people want liberty and freedom. That's universal. That's innate in people. Unfortunately, the older generation in Gaza and Palestine, all they know is conflict. In fact, the whole Middle East, you know, for the last several thousand years. So it's a paradigm shift for so many of those people. The young people don't know anything about peace. I mean, they've never seen it in their lifetime, but yet that's the generation that, if they get educated and they learn what peace can bring, the freedoms and liberties, but also opportunity to change the narrative that they've always lived with and have always heard. But it's going to be a long process, but it's a worthy process. And if they get it right, if this is the seeds of that foundational change, it'll make a huge difference in the world. And maybe it'll be a model for other nations like North Korea, that has never known anything but hatred to the Western ideologies and destroying. They think everybody wants to destroy them. I don't know of anybody want to invade North Korea. I mean, I don't believe I want to go there on vacation either. But let's just hope this works out. And I think Trump has done a great thing to be the catalyst that's really brought this to the table.
Yeah, it was pretty remarkable to see in the cabinet meeting they had, the brief one they had yesterday. And I think Rubio, actually, if you hadn't seen the video of it, you probably should watch it. People should out there. Rubio just laid it out there that Donald Trump just did amazing work. He credited a bunch of other people as well, but he said, make no mistake, basically, that President Trump, and you've heard that, and we're going to hear some more of that in just a minute, but you've heard that from a lot people literally around the world with various political persuasions and that type of thing. But Ted, to me, the most critical thing, and I know a lot of people don't really totally understand this and get this, is the hostage release. All the other parts of the 20-point plan are absolutely critical as well, disarming, all that. But the hostage release is paramount. We should know by Monday or Tuesday when that's going to happen. Israel did pass the agreement last night.
That'll be a litmus test if Hamas turns those people loose.
Well, see, the reason, and a lot of people, and I know you know this, Ted, but a lot of people don't understand that the hostages basically holds Israel itself hostage. Their belief system is such that essentially, I got a friend of mine that explained this to me very well the other day. Even in the Torah, it talks about basically if any one of your people is held captive, your whole nation is held captive. You know, and we have a zero tolerance policy for kidnapping in this country, and we've dealt with it various different ways. But it really is central to the belief system of Jewish people, and especially the state of Israel. So it's critical that happens, in my view.
It really is. And again, like you said, they do hold a nation hostage when somebody's like that. And I think there needs to be some hard set ideologies that you stand by and you do not bend with. And Netanyahu has done that. He says, release the prisoners or we're coming in. And if you don't release them, some of them are going to die. But we are not going to be held hostage for that. So he was changing that narrative. And you think of what he did that helped stimulate this. When he went after the Hamas leader that was in Qatar, and he bombed them in a sovereign nation and killed that guy on their land, it kind of showed them that this guy is serious this time. And they helped broker that deal too. The Egyptians, the Saudis, and the Qatarians, and other Arab nations. So, Netanyahu played hard, but so did President Trump, instead of capitulate like Biden did and worked against Israel in favor of Hamas and in favor of Iran. Trump said, we're done with this. And it was time for a paradigm shift, and he did a good job.
Well, you always trigger a thought in me, Ted.
That's my job.
I hear you, man. Here's the thing. Netanyahu is who he is. And he hasn't really, he has been rock solid from day one, back when he was prime minister before. And I agree with everything you just said, but the real difference is the same reason we've got the border secure in the United States. It turns out that all you really needed was a new president, because the thing that's changed in this is Trump and the White House. I'm not taking anything away from Netanyahu, but Netanyahu was ready to go from day one, but he had no support from the White House and America politically. Donald Trump changed that dynamic, not only for Netanyahu, but for people like you're saying in the Arab world that look like
he really did.
ain't Joe Biden. That's Donald Trump.
He really did. He sided with Israel. He's always been an ally of Israel. And he was working hand in hand with Netanyahu. But then he says, I want the bombings to stop. I want the killings to stop. And then Netanyahu kept them going. And Trump came down on him in the media. But I think behind closed doors, he really came down on him and just says, you got to stop this. If you want peace, you need to start acting that way. And it's all right to carry a big stick, but at some time you got to stop swinging it and get to the negotiation table. And that really, and again, it goes back to Trump's ability and his leadership. I can't say enough good things about that. I don't agree with everything he does, but yet it was the time for a major change, not just in our political stance here in America and what's going on in this country, but around the world. And he's done that. And I know you got some clips that are going to point that out of how influential he was on these world leaders. And this is just 10 months into his second term.
Well, even the media has been grudgingly had to admit
they sure have. Yeah.
That I think a guy named David Ignatius is MSNBC, which is about as liberal as you possibly could. He literally said yesterday that no one else could have done this. And he specifically said, no way Joe Biden could have done this. And this guy's like totally anti-Trump, so they're just having to grudgingly admit it. And, who I feel sorry for, Ted, a little bit about all this is the hardcore leftist street people. Because what are they going to hold up now? The border's sealed, so they can't hold that up. I guess the only thing that Floyd is dead and buried.
I will let you feel sorry for them. I will spend no energy feeling sorry for those.
But what are they going to do? What sign are they going to hold up now? They can't really they can call him Hitler, but Hitler freeing the Jews? My God. And so now they can't even be like Palestinian, all because the Palestinians are dancing in the street for Donald Trump. So
they're
going to be really confused, sir.
I read an editorial today. I think it was Peggy Noonan in the Wall Street Journal, and she was talking pretty much along the same lines that who is the left going to be mad at? Who was not happy about this? And the only ones that were not happy with this were the Western progressive peoples that hate Israel. They're mad that this is happening because, oh my God, who else? Who's going to be our rallying cry now? Free. What's Zoran Mandani going to do from the river to the sea? He's going to have to change his tune there.
Well, what's going to happen is if Trump has his way, it'll be from the river to the sea. You're going to see a resort that never was, and it's going to be as splendid because
it's going to be huge. It's going to be beautiful.
I was watching that video today of all those people marching, like I talked about back along the beach, and I couldn't help but go Trump and think, man, that's an impressive piece of real estate there. Could you imagine what Trump could do with that? So it's
got to plant a seed. He planted a seed. I owe you a correction. We were talking about Mar-a-Lago, and the tax roll is $18 million. However, people said it's worth 50 to 100 times that assessment of $18 million. So take it for what it's worth. You were correct. I was wrong.
Well, you're better than the Fonz. He never could say he was, you know. But
I can't flip my hair either.
So well, let's keep going with this. I want because about Hamas. Okay, I talked about the hostages. Of course, the second part, we're not going to go through all 20 points, but the second part is, demilitarizing and disarming Hamas. And that is very critical as well in that second step. And I want to play this video because I want people to totally understand who we are dealing with. And before I play it, I want to tell you, this was not released by the Trump administration. This video was released by Hamas, and the gentleman in it is a hostage in a tunnel. He's speaking Hebrew, but what he is doing is digging his own grave. Check this out, and we'll come back and talk. We've played it before.
And look at his body condition, too.
Yes, absolutely.
מה שאני עושה עכשיו, אני חופר את הקבר שמיד מבחינתי לי, כי כל יום שעובר הגוף שלי הולך, נחלש, נהיה רזה יותר וחלש יותר. מה שאני עושה עכשיו, אני חופר את הקבר שמיד מבחינתי לי, כי כל יום שעובר הגוף שלי הולך, נחלש, נהיה רזה יותר וחלש יותר.
And I want to emphasize again, that video was released by Hamas, so they wanted the world to see that. And as I said to you off the air, and I'll say it on the air too, can you imagine? It brings tears to my eyes. Can you imagine if that was your son or grandson that you were watching right there?
No, I can't. And that's the brutality that those organizations have. They have no regard for human life. Go back to October 7th, 2 years ago, of what they did in the heinous acts that they created. And they would not have stopped had it not been for Bibi Netanyahu being strong and being backed up by President Trump and a new cabinet and just a new attitude in America, because all that was going on under Joe Biden. And John, it goes back to what Putin said. Had Trump been president, we would never have invaded Ukraine. So he has clout that people don't realize that the world benefits from. I mean, he's got some crazy ways of doing things, but that's okay. We need to adapt, and we've got ways to hold him in check. But I think right now he needs to keep doing what he's doing.
Yeah, and I got one more video I want to play in on this topic. But you talked about Benjamin Netanyahu, and we talked about Trump backing him up on all of this stuff. We played this before, but this is a very short clip of the recent speech that Netanyahu gave to UN a couple of days after Trump. And I want people to watch this because basically Netanyahu lines out why we got where we got. Check it out.
Past decade, we devastated Iran's atomic weapons and ballistic missiles programs. So here's where things stand today. Half the Houthi leadership in Yemen, gone. Yahya Sinwar in Gaza, gone. Hassan Nasrallah in Lebanon, gone. The Assad regime in Syria, gone. Those militias in Iraq, well, they're still deterred. And their leaders, if they attack Israel, will also be gone. And for Iran's top military commanders and its top atomic bomb scientists, well, they're gone too.
We're back, but all those people on that list are gone. Go on. I mean, I think that pretty well sums it up. Brother.
I don't want them to circle my house and put a check mark on it. I'll say that.
Yeah. And I just want to show one more picture here because we talked about who should be, celebrating this and who should give what credit and everything else. And the Democrats, I said I felt sorry for them. But I got this meme I want to show people that says, "Hey, Dems," that's what I call it. But it's okay, Democrats out there, to actually be on Team America every now and then.
Yeah, you would
you
think,
don't have
right?
to always be on it, but we should all be unified in this. That this is a great thing.
It really is. I mean, you got to think, and they're getting more and more boxed in, and I think they're getting more and more isolated. You're going to see people bailing more from them, not just the voters, but you're going to see members of non-Republican parties starting to isolate themselves away from there and distance themselves from that. And they're going to be fewer and fewer of them. They're going to be more radical, but there's going to be fewer and fewer of them. And let's hope so.
Well, the question coming after this, and of course, President Trump has talked about it numerous times and did yesterday as well, is the Russia-Ukraine next? I mean, certainly it's next on his list. He always says, and I agree with him in this sense, he thought that it would be the easiest one to get, and it's turned out to be the toughest, and he's perplexed by it as well. But I want to play this video because yesterday, after Donald Trump had it, all this stuff, he met with the president of Finland and the prime minister of Finland in the Oval Office. And I want to play a video. This is the president of Finland talking about NATO and Donald Trump and the peace deal. And it's not too long, but I think people need to see this, and I'll turn it back.
This is a good clip. I mean, it just shows the attitude of what Trump has created around the world.
And this is one of those liberal European nations, so to speak.
Yes,
Check it out.
Quite big, yes, I have to admit. But, we have it for defense purposes and also to build a deterrence. And it's worked. And I think that's one of the reasons that our relationship is so good as well. We have the Defense Cooperation Agreement with you. Right. We're new allies in NATO. Our defense expenditure is going north of 3%. We work very closely with you and the rest of our allies. And, when you push the ceiling of defense expenditure in NATO to 5%, you can imagine that a country like Finland was quite pleased with that, because that means that all of the allies have to bring up their defense expenditure, and you basically increased our security just with that decision in The Hague. And I have to admit that having been to my first NATO summit in the summer of 2024, if someone would have told me that you will move from 2% to 5% after Trump enters, I would have said, go see a doctor. But,
well, they had to do it, and you were great about it. Spain has not been. Spain is the one that didn't do it. And so I think you people are going to have to start speaking to Spain. The only one that didn't do it, the only NATO country that didn't do it is Spain. And you'll figure what that's all about.
I mean, all I can say about that video, it's amazing, Ted. It's just amazing to hear what the president of Finland said. And if people haven't seen the whole about 30 minutes they were together, they really ought to do themselves a favor and watch it. It is amazing.
They really should. And John, a lot of people don't realize this. Trump was calling for this before he got elected the first time. I was up at the National Convention, the Republican National Convention in where was that? It was up in not Cincinnati, Cleveland. And I spoke at a group of ambassadors. This is when I was in Congress. After that talk, there was a reception. Carolyn and I were there, and this group of tall Europeans came up, introduced themselves to us, and they said they were from Latvia, the Baltic countries, right bordering Russia. And they said, we have not been good members of NATO. We're behind in our dues. We're catching them up, and we're going to pay 2%. This was before Trump got elected. Fast forward that, and we had the silly arguments on the Foreign Affairs Committee where the Democrats were just bashing Trump and some Republicans, how he ruined our relationship with NATO. Yet he increased the givings into NATO by member countries by billions of dollars. So they went from a deficit to a positive. Now you fast forward it to what you just saw. This is, again, what happened when Trump showed up on the world stage. People took him seriously. They may thought he was a little bit crazy, which played into Trump's favor because they didn't know how to react to him. So they kind of towed the line. But yet he has shown strong leadership in this. NATO's stronger and the world's safer because of what he did in his actions. And this will be looked back by the historians as probably one of the most impactful presidents the United States has ever had for good.
Well, like I said about that entire clip, that I didn't really realize this, Ted. You probably did, but percentage-wise, proportionate-wise, Finland has probably the biggest military in the world. They got almost 1 million people in military service right now.
Sure.
And the president said something, or it might have been the prime minister, but it was pretty interesting. He pointed out that basically their entire eastern border borders Russia.
Sure.
And they talked about their military, and they said our strong military is a deterrent. And the Mr. Trump asked the prime minister or the president, one I can't remember, about problems with Russia, and they said, well, we've been moderating our relationship since the 1300s. So they've been dealing with this for a long time.
A long time.
They got a lot of. I guess I say all this to say they got a lot of credibility when they're praising Donald Trump. It's genuine.
It really is, because they don't have to. The other thing they do is they have inscription. So people have to serve in the military, kind of like Israel does. And it builds up that force of readiness that is lacking in so many countries. The other thing is they're great clients of the United States military industrial complex, whether you like it or not. It is a necessary evil to keep peace in the world, because you can't have peace if you don't have strong deterrence. And that prime minister said that very astutely, said that we are a very strong deterrent to Russia. And it's not just them, but it's that combined influence of NATO allies that Putin's got to look at. And I think you're going to see Putin come to the table. And if you notice, he has been talking very nicely about President Trump. And I think it's a ploy and a play on Putin's part. But I also got to think that Putin is thinking, my days are numbered on this Ukrainian war. We need to bring it to a peace deal.
Well, people may be asking, how does Donald Trump do all of this stuff? I mean, he's going over to the Middle East if everything works out, and probably speaking to the Knesset. And I didn't realize no president has ever done that. He's probably going to do that Sunday. And then he's probably going over to Egypt to actually officially sign the deal, even though it's already approved. And people may wonder how in the world he does that. So I came across this video. This is Caitlin Collins of CNN, no fan of Donald Trump,
right,
but she pretty much explains it. Listen to this clip. To me, it's amazing as well, but this explains it. Check this out.
Be on Air Force One on a trip. He doesn't sleep on these trips.
This is what it's like to work for a man who never sleeps.
I was just talking to someone about this because we wrote this story on what traveling with him is like in the first term, because I had this source who said, you never want to be on Air Force One on a trip. And I said, why? Like, you'd think you want to be in the axis of power close to Trump. He doesn't sleep on these trips. And like, you're going to Asia or something, and that's kind of the only time you're going to sleep before you go on this trip.
Yeah.
But Trump is just always up and talking, and he'll like have them go wake staff up if they're asleep because he wants to talk to them. And so we have this big trip to Asia coming up, and you're not going to sleep on that flight. You never.
It pretty much sums it up right there, Ted. The guy never sleeps, wakes up his staff and all this kind of stuff while they're flying. Reporters are hanging on his every word because everything is going to be a press conference. And I try to envision Joe Biden even doing that for 5 minutes, let alone for 24 hours.
It is so true the way he does that. Mark Meadows was a good friend of mine, and he was, of course, chief of staff with Trump. And he said Trump would call him at 3 a.m, 4 a.m. And he goes, the guy never sleeps. And so this is just a habit of the way he operates. And it's worked well for him. I don't think it would work for me and a lot of people. I can operate on 4 to 6 hours of sleep, but that's good. I'm glad he does that. He does. He's round the clock. And like you contrast him with Biden, we're getting our money's worth out of Trump, but we sure didn't out of Biden.
Well, Ted, we're going to move on real quick. We got about 5 minutes left in the show. The shutdown doesn't seem to end. There seems to be no real end in sight. Chuck Schumer did an interview on this called Punch Bowl, and it was just released on Thursday. And he literally said that every day that we have the shutdown gets better for us. Not the American people, the Democratic Party. And he's admitting to you. I always say take these people at their word. He's telling you this is all political and it only benefits the Democratic Party. Not talking about Democrats, the Democratic Party. What are your thoughts on that?
It's typical Chuck Schumer. I mean, it's a losing proposition. There's no way it benefits them. They passed the same bill, I think 17 or 18 times they voted on this. And now they're all of a sudden they don't like it because it would give Donald Trump a win in the fact that he kept the government open. Their big sticking point is the subsidies for Obamacare, which I'm 100% against. It should never have happened. We could do a week program on that. The subsidies went up with COVID, and that's what they're trying to claw back is the subsidies that went up during COVID. There was extra money put in there. The Republicans are trying to pull that back, and the Democrats, once you give an entitlement, they want to add to it. They don't want to ever bring it back because that's their base. They're taking money away from their base, but yet they're killing America. It's a losing proposition for the Democrats and Chuck Schumer will not be reelected. And good riddance to him. Let's just hope AOC doesn't replace him. A good communist, Marxist communist, no room for him in America.
Well, you're right. We could do a whole week show on just that Obamacare and the subsidies. But just to give people one quick example, and I'm not going to get into the actual numbers, but I can tell you this. Even if you're making almost $500,000 a year, depending on how that income comes, you're actually entitled to a subsidy on your insurance. Right. I mean, that's just insane.
It's insane. But they trap people into this. The Democrats that want to have the government be the answer and wherewithal for everything to be the solution, and they're the problem. Obamacare should never have happened. I don't want to go off on this because it'll be a tangent we don't have time for, and my true colors may come out.
Yeah. Well, we only got a few minutes left, but I just really want to play this one video here if we can set it up. It's Katie Porter, who was a member of Congress, I do believe, at one point. I don't know if she's
I had the displeasure of serving with her in the AOC.
Well, she's running for governor of California. She's leading in the polls.
Can you believe this?
She was asked this one question about recently with a CBS reporter, no hardcore right winger, and she wouldn't answer the questions about how she's going to get Trump supporters, which is 40% of the vote in the last election out there, to support her and all that. But I want to play this video that is surfaced. This is Katie Porter, and she's doing this.
This is the real Katie Porter.
Yeah, the real Katie Porter. I got to warn you, there's some foul language. And let's play this, and we'll come back and talk about it real quick as we close out the show.
So I'm on the Oversight Committee, you might know, and that is where we did a study recently this fall in September. And what it showed is if we don't electrify our transportation sector, that we're going to lose more than 500,000 Californians dying prematurely to air pollution and other problems. And the state could lose. Get out of my fucking shot.
I wanted to tell you that that's actually incorrect. It's not that it's electric vehicles. It's that if we don't meet the commitments under the Paris Climate Accord.
Okay, it does. Okay, you also were in my shot before that.
I mean, people are calling now for her to jump out of the race because she, is all these things we just talked about. And of course, people are calling for the gentleman we talked about it on our last show,
right,
running for Attorney General in Virginia for talking about shooting people and everything else. But I say, they say, oh, they shouldn't be running the Democratic Party. I think absolutely they actually represent, when you combine the two of them, they represent the leadership of the Democratic Party right now. So I don't think they should drop out because of that, because all the Democrats are now going F this and F that, and they're all calling for violence against law enforcement and everything else. So to me, Ted, why should they drop out?
No, I mean, it's a good reflection of the Democrat Party and the people who support that. Look at Hakeem Jeffries swinging baseball bat like he was going to beat somebody up. Look at Biden was going to take Trump behind the woodshed and beat him up. They've got all this violence on their side. They're frustrated. Their policies don't work. They have led to where we are in America for the most part. The terrible policies we have and the amount of debt we have with their social programs. It's time to end this. And for Katie Porter, I served with her, and I think I didn't know what furries were. I found out over the weekend what furries were. But she came to Congress, I think 2 terms after me, and she showed up on the House floor. I was unfortunately not there, or fortunately wasn't there. And I think she was dressed as a leopard, walking around with a tail and all that stuff. Just out of place, not being professional, but yet she's running for governor. And it's bizarre that she would be leading that pack of Democrats outside of Gavin Newsom. Well, he's not running, but leading that pack. I mean, it's scary, and it reflects poorly on California, as Ron Madani does in New York City. People need to wake up in all these states and say, get a reality check, bring in some adults that are going to solve the problems of this nation, not play these games and these antics and look for social media likes. So with that, I guess we're close to the end, aren't we?
Yeah, well, you just sparked. Yes, we are. You just sparked the realization in me, Ted. That, you were talking about Biden and the baseball bats and a bunch of. I just realized that we've been mistaken all along. When Biden fell on that commencement stage, he was really practicing coming off the ring ropes on to Donald Trump for the body slam.
No doubt.
Maybe he should be at that MMA fight at the White House. But I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. Please like what we're doing, share what we're doing far and wide, become a sponsor of our show, a supporter of us, and have a blessed and great weekend. Ted, close us out.
Yep, and cheer on the Gators. We play Mississippi State, don't we?
No, Texas A&M. I'm glad
Texas A&M. I'm sorry.
Ted, you realize we have an opportunity, the Gators do, to win a championship this weekend. We could become the state champs of Texas because we beat Texas last week. If we go into Texas A&M and win that, we will be I'll declare us the state champions of Texas.
That's right. So everybody pay attention. We're going to Texas, and let's cheer on the Gators. Go Gators. Bring it home.
Peace out.
I'll take care. Have a great weekend. Thanks for watching.